You're listening to the Power Platform People podcast on the CRM Audio Network with the bearded CRM guy Ian Connolly and the Mark Christie. The guys will take you on a journey of the Power Platform community. Here we go.
So I'm just Mark then. So you get the bearded
CRM guy. You get
CRM
to
guy
introduce yourself. You get to tag yourself.
Right,
I know
okay.
how much you love to say your name.
Well, I'm just going to be Mark today then.
All right.
I'm just going to go in a huff. My toys are out the pram already.
See what happens when you don't give him his title. He's like a little prince.
Oh yeah,
He just loves it.
Well, I don't know. Is it Mark Christie? There we go. Is that even better for you?
I don't know. I don't think there's any full stops or parentheses or anything in your name. It's the Mark Christie in one word. So how are you anyway, sir?
I'm all right.
Cool.
We've got quite an interesting one today. So we're going to get straight into it today. We've got Ana Demeny with us today. How are we doing, Anna?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks.
Hey.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. We're glad to have you here. Definitely. I think you've got a good voice, and this is certainly a good platform to use it on. So, how are you, and what's been happening?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. What's been happening? Not much. So here it is.
Not
Something's
much
happening today.
It's lovely how everybody just says not much all the time, isn't it? How's things? Yeah, everything's good. Not much is happening. But everybody's
like
always so busy.
When the kids come home from school, what did you do today? Not much. All right, okay. You were at a party all weekend. What happened? Oh, not much. You were away on holiday for a week. What happened? Not much. Oh, all right, okay. It's almost a go away and leave me alone sort of talk.
That's what everybody says, though, isn't it, Anna?
It is. Well, I suppose I wanted to say not much apart from work. So.
Yeah.
We will give you that. So, for people who don't know you, do you want to just give everyone a little bit of a background on who you are and even just a little bit around where you work and what you do?
Sure. So I'm Ana Demeny. I come from Romania initially. I've been living in the UK for the past 5 years. I've been a developer, a .NET developer for a while, and then I've been a consultant, a CRM consultant for the past 6 years, I think. And then I moved into, more of the power platform. So I do a lot of Azure, I do a lot of integration, a lot of serverless. So I'm trying to architect systems that, talk to each other in the cloud. So I've got my head in the cloud, essentially. This is who I am.
And that's not even the cloud, like your head's in the cloud as in you don't know what you're doing. Your head's just in the proverbial cloud that is a Microsoft world.
That's exactly. So my head is literally in the Microsoft cloud, in between the servers, you see. That's where I am.
One of the things I love, and you probably get this all the time, but it's Transylvania you're from, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I'm a little.
See, I remembered that.
Yep.
Yes. Have you ever seen a vampire?
I haven't. They only come over if you invite them. I've never invited one, so I haven't seen a vampire in real life ever. But I'm sure they exist.
So when you were growing up, was that like a myth or anything that you would find a vampire, or that you had to cross the road 3 times, or a vampire would come and find you? Is that the sort of thing you got told as a child? I'm just so interested in it.
Nothing like that. We were very friendly with the vampires as I was growing up. So everyone was hoping to see one. We would happily have, given away our blood just to become one. Maybe I am one, Ian, or Mark.
Maybe locally around about here, when you were growing up, you used to get threatened with somebody called Maggie May. It's another Glaswegian thing. And she stays in like a flat or round the corner from your mum and dad, and your mum and dad would always say to you, if you don't behave, I'm going to take you to Maggie May's. Don't know who she is. Feel sorry for her.
Wait. Maggie May? Is that not a Rod Stewart song?
Might be. Maybe it's something, I don't know. But you used to get threatened with some random woman. Imagine being that person.
When I was growing up, the threat was that they're gonna ask gypsies to come and take us away. But I loved gypsies.
See, that just makes me think of the
And
labyrinth. You know the movie The Labyrinth when the baby gets taken away by the trolls and stuff?
yeah,
I'm like, that's awesome.
yeah, exactly. So I
Is that
just
not
love
the?
gypsies. I love the colors. I love their culture. They were loud. They were
Mm.
Yep,
musical. They had
I
all the
love
candy.
my big fat gypsy wedding and stuff like that on TV over here. I love that sort of thing.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
Labyrinth though. Is that the one with Bowie?
Aye, the Dance Magic Dance.
Yeah, that's the one.
Jennifer Connelly, David Bowie.
Jennifer Connelly. Never even clicked there. Well done, Ian. You've got that one in early.
She spells it differently though, it's a different person, different family.
Ah, all right, okay. So to give everyone an idea, I mean, obviously me and Ian do the sort of, I don't want to say agony aunt, but we do the subjects that are not really technical. We can have people on to talk about just real life.
Hmm.
I was about to swear, real life stuff. So what, Ian, do you kind of want to introduce, or Anna, what we were going to kind of talk about today?
Well, I'll let Anna do it. It's Anna's podcast at that point as well, and Anna's got the voice here, so we can let Anna do that introduction herself, I think.
Yeah, so today um, I'd like us to talk about anxiety and anxiety at work and in work progression and things that we're scared of. Um, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, and I've seen it around me in my own work, but not just in my own work. So, like last year, this time, I ran, a course on dynamics. It was called Learn to Earn, and it was with people who were just trying to take the jump into dynamics. So we ran this course, and people, they took an exam, and now they're certified and ready to go into the dynamics field. And that's awesome because what I observed is that people coming into this course, they were fiercely capable, extraordinary extraordinarily capable, very, very smart, very dedicated, and very focused. But I was wondering what kept them from going into a different field, altogether. And my conclusion was that it must have been anxiety. And every time I spoke to them, it was never about, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to learn this thing. It was more like, what are people going to think? I'm just going to be a junior. Will there be prejudice? How will I feel? How will I be able to work in an office? Things like that. So I think work anxiety can be such a barrier towards career progression and maybe even personal progression at a personal level that I think is just worth to talk about it.
I think it is really good to talk about. I completely agree. And one of the things that, for me, what you mentioned there about these people that were really keen, wanting to grow, etc., they dissatisfied and then not doing anything with it for the fear of what will people think, etc. That's, I suppose, one of the things we know that as is imposter syndrome, where people
Yes,
feel,
and
there you go.
what what people think or how will they behave, and
Mm,
I see it everywhere. I see it in what I call lift anxiety. Have you ever seen it? You're
explain it.
you're on the lift and you're going to your office, and I work at level 28, so 1 to 28, quite a few floors to get through. And you hear people in the lift, saying things, and they're really troubled. Like, for example, today, a lady was saying something about how a coworker told her that she wasn't progressing enough, or that he didn't see enough output from her. And I was thinking that she didn't even, take the time to think of how she could improve the output, or how can she do better, or what
Mm.
exactly made him think that. What was stuck with her, and she had not slept all night, was the fact that someone thought that she wasn't doing a good job. Therefore, everyone must think that. And
You end up
Yeah, and
it
focusing
that's
on
was
the
such a
negative of it.
blocker. Yes, yes.
it does do that. I mean, you get the initial thought of it's once the thoughts in your head. If somebody says something, and then some of the times it's just a flippant comment. It's not somebody out to attack somebody. It's not somebody trying to put a negative spin on something. It could just be something that's a flippant comment, but if your mind picks it up and takes it that way, you can start to think that, oh, what did he really mean by that? Why does he think that? Does that mean everyone else thinks it? It's a spiral. It can happen.
It's exactly what I was just going to say. It's self-perpetuating at that point as well, isn't it? When you have anxiety, I mean, anxiety could be simple as just a feeling of unease where you're unhappy in something or you've got a little bit of worry, but it's a pin drop in an ocean. But it's the ripple effect that it causes that has, I think, what Anna's explained there is that lift anxiety where you just stress about it, you worry about it, you don't sleep, and you just become this ball of absolute stress, anxiety, pain, even.
And if you add that on top of many, I don't know, long hours, we all work long hours, right?
Yeah.
And we all try and strive to do our best. And, all of the sudden, I think it makes you just very tired. You feel that fatigue. You don't feel like really doing anything else. You're always tired. You're negative at home as well. And the worst thing is that it feels this is what leads to underperformance. So
Yeah,
it's such a big circle, and I've seen it with all sorts of people. So I've seen super capable people, very well off, and um, recognized for being very, very good at their job, and even more than their job. And uh, they literally have a name, maybe in the industry, or they're leading massive teams, or they're doing all these things up on top of their day job, and yet they are anxious about maybe one small comment that someone said, or um, some
yeah.
unintended thing that was caused by something else.
Yeah, I mean, anxiety can kind of show itself in lots of different ways. I mean, I'll be honest. You see, when I get anxious, I need the toilet. It's a weird one. Anytime I get anxious, or I know that there's a situation that I'm going to go into that I'm anxious about going into, I get a dodgy stomach. Feel a little bit sick. Um, even sometimes get a little bit of the shakes. It's I think anxiety is more common than people think.
Yep. I think a lot of people just see it as a anxiety is an interesting thing. I think when you look at anxiety itself, to be diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder, you need to have it more often than not over a 6 month period. Like I might get anxious when I know I'm going to do something. I'm going to do a presentation. It's standard. I'm going to get anxious when I get to that point. I know I'm going to get sweaty palms. I know I'm going to get dry mouth, cotton mouth, whatever you want to call it. But that's not necessarily abnormal because I'm pushing myself into an abnormal situation. But it's when that anxiety or when these feelings become the normal that definitely there's something not right. There's something imbalanced there. And what is that something? How do you address that something? How do you identify that something and get over it?
Well,
Yeah,
that's right. How do you address that? How do you get over it? Because many people say when um, when you're in a situation like that, and for example, someone in my team, for example, was very, very um, stressed by a certain situation. And they came to me and told me, and so on. And I almost wanted to say, well, why didn't you raise it? Why didn't you, um, went to someone? I was on holiday at the point, so why didn't you just go to my boss, for example, and say that this was happening to you, that you felt bullied, or that you felt
Hmm.
under a lot of pressure, or that this made you do some actions that you wouldn't have done otherwise. and
Yep.
and then I realized that you can't do that. So if someone's in that situation where they feel a lot of pressure, and granted, a lot of that pressure might just be in their heads, raising it is a big deal. So most
Yep.
companies or most organizations will have like a mental health program. But essentially, what the mental health product program makes you do is confront the person who has caused this, bad state in you. And these people can't do that because let's just say the bully is maybe not aware that they have been doing that, and also they are in a superiority position straight away, so they'll be able to argument their way into that behavior.
Yeah, they
So
can
I think that's
try
so
and justify it to how they feel and how it was appropriate, etc., but not caring about how somebody has felt on the receiving end of it.
well. Yeah, I even had the well, I can't control how you feel situation, in which case, what can you say, what can you do?
And I think if you've been in that situation where you're almost, if you want to confront it or open it up, there's cases where you will get anxiety about even doing that. So you're sitting there, you're anxious about the situation, the problems that occurred. You think that you've got imposter syndrome, or you think that everyone is telling you you're poor at your job, and you're down because of that. And then all of a sudden you want to try and confront it, but you then get anxious and nervous about having that conversation, to the point where sometimes you don't even have the conversation because you're that bad.
Hmm.
So
Exactly. So going back to what you said earlier, Mark, you said that when you're anxious, you've got a physical response straight away. Well, I believe that when some people are anxious with regards to work, um, they they try to regain some of that power back, and this is when they are starting to cause, trouble for other people
yeah,
around them.
for me that sounds like fight or flight. So the
Yes.
way you get back is you fight back and you start doing things which are maybe a little more out of character, taking more risks or pushing people certain ways or trying to behave like that person who is forcing you to feel a certain way. You try and mirror that and bounce it onto someone else, and exactly it causes more grief and strife than it's worth potentially. But it's again that situation, as you were just going to say, you've seen it.
Yes. So my conclusion is that all of this, um, blockage goes on in circle, and it's caused by us people. So even and by all of us potentially. So even by people who are themselves the victim of being in that situation, of being pushed too hard, or not being understood, or not being given a chance, these people will cause other people anxiety as well. And I don't, how what can we do to stop it?
Yeah. Do you think the other people that are pushing their anxiety onto other people, do you think they're doing that deliberately? Or do you think that's just kind of like a byproduct of what's happening?
No, I don't think they're doing it deliberately. I don't. But I don't think they're thinking about it either.
No, I mean, as a kind of line manager, I I get things that are said from the top down. So, hi Mark, here's a couple of objectives that you've got, um, and I'll be thinking, well, that one there's maybe I don't know about that. I don't think I'll be able to get that done. I'm very conscious that if I don't think I can get it done or get a little bit anxious about it, I don't want to pass that on to somebody else to do, and then I will almost kind of try and own that problem and send myself into a little spiral of I can't let anyone do it. I can't then say to somebody I can't do it because they'll think I'm not good enough. And you just go into that little ball, that, just that little ball where you're
Yes.
just an anxious hedgehog with all your pricks sticking out.
So you see, that happens to me too. But then when this happens for, for me is something that I can control. So if there's something that I can control, so not everyone, the rest of the team, they're not going to be able to do it, but then I'm going to be able to do it, and then I just do it, and for me, it's control. But that's not necessarily the best management, is it?
No, and it's maybe a learned behaviour as well,
Yes.
that you don't want to put anyone else under pressure, but by doing that, you're putting yourself under pressure.
And also by, you're trying to protect people that you're working with. The moment you take even a few days of holiday, that all goes tumbling down because the people who you are working with, all of a sudden they're going to have direct access to the people who are actually putting the pressure, and they're going to feel it take 10 times more intense.
Yeah, there's definitely something with that, and it is a difficult one because I mean, I know anxiety is a chemical imbalance. It's not something that you can warrant away. It's not something that you can even kind of proactively stay away from. 9 times out of 10, though, as well, the anxiety isn't caused by something that you're doing. Anxiety is by something else. It's an outside force that's causing it. You don't really have the mechanism to say, world, don't do this. There's It's not within your grasp half the time, and it's just how do you manage it? How do you put coping mechanisms in? And as you said, how do you make sure that you're not making somebody anxious?
Mm.
And that is a big thing. And I don't think, I'll be honest, personally, I don't think I I think about that as often as I maybe should do.
So in I thought about it quite a bit because I don't even. So as you said, anxiety is a chemical imbalance, and I really don't know enough about it. Um, but I'm always thinking about a nice work environment, a good work environment. This is where I believe people perform best. And I actually think that the common disruptor, is unpredictable behavior. So, what I want to say by that is, um, you have those people who are all very happy, or um, they they put on this um, very celebratory attitude, like, oh, well done, congratulations, ta-da-da, stuff like that. But then they become vicious in private.
Okay. There's Yeah, I mean, I know, I mean, kind of jumping maybe onto the depression side of it a little bit though is, I know that there are people who are depressed or they're anxious, and what they'll do is they will use all of their energy to get into work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and basically paint a smile on their face, pretend they're happy, pretend everything's okay, and then when they go home, they're so tired from pretending that they're happy or pretending that there's nothing wrong, because there is still the stigma that if you have kind of long-term generalized anxiety or you have severe to mild depression, that you're weak, that you can't be trusted, you can't process things, you're going to take time off work. There's still that huge stigma around it. So people will spend all day being positive, smiley, high-fiving everyone, making the coffees, being as loud and out there as they can, and then they will just go home, and by 7 o'clock at night, they're sleeping. They're that tired because of what they've
Do you know
done
what I'm
during
going
the
to say
day.
to that as well, though? There's a lot of props you need to give to people in that situation as well, because they're probably the strongest people you know. There might be this stigma to it, but you think about how much effort it takes them to get up in the morning, put that face on, to go to work. Yet it might not be the right thing for them, but that's some amount of strength it takes to do that. To get yourself out of the dark space that you feel a bit mute in and go to work, to get in that lift, to go up 28 floors. That takes strength. Not everybody has that strength. A lot of people would fail at an earlier point,
Brilliant.
but it's
Yes,
about
that's
identifying it,
exactly
getting it
right.
there, and how do you spot the signals in these people before they go, to quote Carissa, code red? Because if they get to the point that it's too far, there's no coming back. You're going to lose good staff, you're going to lose good people, you're going to lose good friends, because these people will move on, they'll go somewhere else if they're getting bullied, if they're not getting what they want in work, if they're not happy in work. The option is fight or flight. You leave, you move. I've done it myself.
Yes. So you have this person, right? And maybe you're right, but you're not, like, you're not doing a you're not adding a diagnostic because you don't know, right? But you know that someone's just unpredictable, is mind blowing. They change direction from one moment to the other. They look perfectly happy now, and then they manage to work themselves up, right next to a panic attack with
Yeah.
with someone else, and unloading all of that stress onto someone else. And then, granted, you sympathize for that person because they do need help, but is that actually causing more imbalance?
So there are a couple of things really. I mean, so I we're talking about this at quite a prominent time because I spent last week on a mental health first aid course, and one of the main subjects that we covered was general symptoms of anxiety, panic attacks, what are the physical, psychological, and behavioural effects of anxiety. And it's really what it's twofold. It's being mindful that you have to look after yourself and make sure you're healthy, but you also have to be very, very mindful that what you can say, as flippant as a comment it is, something that you say that you might not even think is a negative comment can be in somebody's mind if they're um, already down there. That could be something that just sets them off. I think one of the other bits is also looking at, right, okay, so how do you recognise anxiety in somebody? So are they avoiding certain situations? Are they going quiet? Were they a bubbly person but now are kind of reclusive, sitting away, not having lunch with people, sitting with their headphones on and not talking to anyone? Have they maybe become a bit obsessive with certain things? Do they have to do they have to go on website at lunch and read all the documents on it? Or is it like a more physical symptom where you can see somebody's losing weight, that there may be breathing patterns are a bit different, or they're always going to the toilet? Just little things like that. It's keeping an eye on you and the people around you to try and help. The biggest thing is, if you do know somebody that is that way, or you are yourself, is actually just talking about it. That's the biggest thing that you can do about it, is be as open. It's difficult to do. I mean, it's fucking really difficult to tell somebody you're not coping, but you can only really get out of that place by talking.
And once you recognize that you are not coping exactly as you said, let's just say you speak to someone or you just keep it to yourself, maybe. I believe that's the key, actually recognizing that you're not coping with a certain situation and trying to understand why or what's going on or what's the reason behind it. I thought I wasn't coping with the situation. For example, them, I said I wasn't going to talk about me. A friend noticed that they weren't quite coping with the situation. And, it happened exactly as you described, avoiding certain tasks or emails or people, or feeling very um, put back by some of the interactions with a certain person. And then once you know once my friend has recognized that they weren't quite coping, took a step back and tried to understand what was going on. And I actually understood that the person causing all this um, situation, they had their own stuff on their plate, and they had their
Yep.
own pressure and their own goals, and they wanted to achieve something as well. And
I think that's key there as well,
I
Anna. Like
think,
I should say, your friend at that
yeah.
point in time, their control mechanism kicked in. They knew that actually I'm
That's
acting out of
right.
sorts at the moment. So what I need to do is take that step back and reevaluate the situation, and that works for your friend. Doesn't work for everybody else in that way, but for your friend in
And
that situation, that allowed them to then feel connected again and actually look at the bigger picture to realise I feel like this, but you know what? I can see where they're coming from. I can see they've got their own agenda, they've got their own issues, and understanding that waterfall from it and being able to then address it and deal with it and direct the water flow in the appropriate way.
yes, and you know the moment you realize that, or the moment my friend realized that, all the emails, all of the interactions, all of the sudden, they were not aggressive at
Yep.
all. They were just not a cry for help, but um, that person was just too proud to
Yeah,
ask
you might
for help.
find, I don't know, obviously I don't know the
Um,
emails and things like that, but you might have found they were more depersonalized than they would have been normally because they're detached. They're
yes,
disconnecting from themselves, their body,
yes,
their mind, and they're putting down on paper almost what is factual. And I think that's one of the problems when you read an email and things, there's no conveying tone and sentiment, and it's really hard, and the choice of words can be more aggressive than they mean to be. And if you're in a situation where you're unsure in something, you'll always read it the worst way that you can, because that's human nature.
so I know people who will not go for a promotion because they're afraid to work with a certain person. And that's not me for sure, by the way. I would go for a promotion. Does not matter, man.
Good.
But seriously now, can you imagine being offered, the chance to step up in your career? And of course, you've worked for it years upon years upon years, and then you decide not to go for it, and you're basing an excuse of, oh, maybe I'm not ready yet, just because you're afraid you're going to have to deal with someone day after day after day, and you're already anxious, and you feel, I quote, like an idiot
So,
already.
other than imagine it, I've been there. There's a company that I won't
Oh,
work for because of one person that works there. A whole company, a whole organization, because I'd need to interact with a person. Not so much now, but at a certain point in time, there was definitely a business that I was like, I can't go there because they're there. I just don't want to deal with that person. I work with you more often than not for my sins, let's be honest. But yeah, so I can empathize in that situation. I can understand it. But my choice, right or wrong for me, was to avoid a whole effectively global organization because of it.
So is it maybe two things though? Is there maybe a little bit of anxiety there, but also
Yes,
personal
for me, it was
conflict
in that
resolution?
situation, I think more than anxiety, it was personal conflict resolution. It was just easier for me not to put myself in that position because I know that in that position, it made me act away from who I normally am.
Okay. So yeah, so putting yourself into that position, so what you have to be quite proactive with is these sort of things. So if you know there is a situation that would have an effect on you, then don't go for it. So it's maybe it isn't actually maybe your friend there, Anna, has actually found a good coping mechanism to not put themselves into a situation that would affect their mental health. So maybe
maybe.
actually that person should be commended
Identifying it. Yep.
for making choices about their person. Yeah, making choices about that rather than because yeah, there would be this anxiety. Oh, I'm scared having to work with this person. But let's be honest, I don't want to work with that person because I know it's going to have a detrimental effect on my mental health. Is a positive and excellent way to put a spin on it.
I'm finding it very, very hard to agree with you, but I am going to
Okay.
agree
No,
with you.
No,
that's
no, no.
Uh,
We're
and I'm finding it very hard because of my own
that's just what I
personality.
was going to say there as well, and this is
okay.
our take on it. Obviously, there's no right and wrong necessarily based on my experiences or what Mark's saying there. It's everybody is different, and you have to find your own control because that's how you, for me, again, finding my own control, it allows me to identify when I find that I'm getting into that situation. So I go, hold up, step back, what's happening? Right, okay, take evaluation, right, back into it. And it's like a war plan for me a little bit, but that's what works for me. Whether it works for your friend or anyone else, I don't know. I'm sure everybody else will have their own opinions on it.
So do you think with your friend then it was that they were anxious that working for that person would just lead to more anxiety or would lead to like conflict?
I think a bit of both. Yes, I think a bit of both. Mostly conflict. I believe you're right. It's mostly, face to face confrontation.
It's
It's
That's
horrible because they're
horrible.
hard
both
to
multipliers for
have.
each other in that situation.
Yes.
Did you just say it was horrible? That's what it sounded like you said. It's either that or I'm hungry, one of the two.
It's hard to I believe it's hard to have these conversations or these confrontations with your own boss, but not just with your own boss, but good- people are so different. Like I learn how different people are, at least in the last year, and how everyone has their own needs, um, and that's a very, very valuable lesson
Hmm.
that I have learned. Um, so I know it's very, for most people I know, um, having a conflict, a face-to-face conflict, that's terrifying.
Oh, I'm in exactly the same boat. That is my idea of hell. If there is a problem, I will shirk away from it. If I have to go and have well, I was going to say, have an interesting chat with somebody. Iain's probably aware of a situation that I've had over the past couple of weeks where I've had to go and have conversations, and I was quite anxious about it. I didn't want to have the conversations because it was a face-to-face conversation that I had to have. I could have done it by email and just sent that email and done it by email, but doing so, I think, would have given that person I was having the conversation with probably their own issues with anxiety.
So, what
So
are we
yeah,
saying
it's
here, guys? Are we saying
so
that everyone causes anxiety for someone?
I think so.
Mm.
Not we say that, but not on purpose.
Yes.
I don't think anyone, unless you're an arsehole, there are arseholes out there, but I don't think anyone goes out and actively says, oh, I'm going to make Iain feel like a
I don't know
bellend
about that.
today. Don't, well, I do that every day. That's just me, but I don't think anyone goes out. Sorry, I say anyone. I don't think the majority of people would go out with that mindset. We have to. It's difficult to manage our own anxiety because unless you're acutely aware of it, how do you know what to manage? You could just feel like, oh, this is how it's meant to feel. This is how life is meant to be. I think educating people on that is
It's exactly that.
quite a big
Like,
thing.
anxiety could be simple as feeling tense. It could be just that you're worrying about something. It could
Yes.
be that you have this ultimate sense of dread that makes you want to vomit. It could be, as you said, your physical shake and can't get up and everything else. So small anxiety is not just this big thing. You don't suddenly just get anxiety. It starts in a small little nugget or something that builds up. And until you know what that is, you don't know it's anxiety. I don't think.
No, I got sent on a blog earlier on today as well that they want to start at primary school level teaching children about mental health. And I think that's a good thing because if you're aware of your mental health and how your mental health affects what you do, you will be aware of how your mental health or how other people's mental health can be affected by what you do. And I think a lot of places need to look, and I know we're kind of talking about anxiety in the workplace. I think or hope that a lot of companies now are being a lot more proactive with how they deal with mental health, because if there are people who are anxious or depressed, and having somewhere they can go or they can talk to and be open about it is a lot better. Because I mean, I'll be honest, I work at Incremental Group. We have something like 30 trained mental health first aiders within the company. So we have an environment where it's okay to be not okay. It's pretty much exactly what it is. You can go and speak to people about it. It's out in the open. If you're feeling that way, we are open and you can talk to anyone about it. And I think the more and more workplaces get into that mindset, then that will start to harbour the future of what mental health is and how open and honest people can be about it. And just by being open and honest, that can be a good thing. I would probably say my mental, it's a weird one, right? My mental health, I feel, is better now that I talk about mental health a lot, because it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad word. It's there. It can be talked about. Um, an example of what we were doing last week. Do you know how hard it is to ask somebody if they're feeling like committing suicide? Sounds like a simple question, but it's a difficult one to ask somebody because the word itself has a big stigma against it. And it's the same with mental health. There's lots of stigma around it. So if you have an environment where people can talk about it openly, then in just conversation, you can then open up yourself. That was a rant and a wee bit of a tangent, but yes, I got
That's
in the
all
end.
good. One of the things I kind of want to go back to a little bit is one of the things that Anna said, In the last year, you've learned more about people and things and how people are and how people function.
Yes, I
A question, and it might I don't know if there's a genuine answer for this that you'll know or not. But obviously, you've been in the UK for 5 years or so as well, so you've got a different element there as well, where
yes.
you're from a different background, a different culture almost. That must bring its own challenges as well, understanding who you are, where
Well,
you are, and where you fit in.
Ian, every time I get in a room, and it being a meeting or maybe a workshop or whatever it is, I will instinctively count people, and then I try to figure out who, how many of them are foreigners. And I work in financial services at the moment, so not many are. That in itself
Mm.
attracts
Yep.
nervousness, you see. You're there in a room and you feel completely alone, and everyone seems to just be staring at you, and they're just waiting for you to say something. And you're afraid that what you're gonna say is not gonna be clever enough or informed enough or good enough, and then a lot of the times you don't say anything, or I don't say anything until very late on, and then you're accused of withholding information. So it's such a circle, you see. Being from another country in a
Yeah.
high powered environment where people are used to having things done in a certain way. It's very different culture wise. We're used to, so for in Romania, we're used to doing things, and we sort of expect for people to see that things have been done. Over here within the UK, everyone communicates, so they socialize whatever they've been doing to other people, and this counts as value. Maybe a lot more than actually doing stuff, and that, ooh, for me, that's such a big conflict in my head, that you, yeah, very very difficult to do. Um,
Yeah. So, I mean, that could be quite a big thing. I was even, and this is maybe a strange one. I mean, I know your grasp of English is better than my grasp of English, and
I
probably
say
Ian's
things like
grasp of
honours,
English
nobody
as
knows what
well.
that means.
But honours, we have to get honours in every podcast now. But when I was over in Finland, I was talking for Auntie on field service. And just around lunchtime, we were in rooms and people were talking in a different language. And I was like, what are they saying? Are they saying this fat gimp is rubbish at what he's doing? You don't know what's being said. And it puts you it puts you on edge. So I can imagine at the start that must have been quite a big thing as well for you.
it was. And I thought that my way of dealing with it was obviously the only way of dealing with it, because I
Yep.
didn't know anything else. But then the reason why I'm saying that in the last year, maybe year and a half, I learned more about people, is because within my own team, I've got a very diverse group of people that I've tried very, very hard to recruit, get them to join, get them to stay, help them evolve, and all of that. And each of these individuals, they require a totally different level of engagement. And that's a big deal because I believe it's representative in a way for my small world, how these people are, how they expect to be um, dealt with, what makes them happy, and so on. Um, I do have a big problem, because it is a language barrier. So in Romanian, um, would you do that for me, for example? Can you please get me that report? Or I will
Okay.
have such and such do that task. We don't, because it feels imposing, right? It's like I will command those people to do something. Whereas within my own language, we would say, please, can you do that? So that's all right. Or maybe I will ask someone to do this, or um, we together will produce that report, rather than saying,
Yep.
I'll have Ian deliver that. It's a very different take on things.
See, I would maybe slightly disagree with you there then. I think that's about terminology and how people do things because I would never say, right, you go away and do this task. I'll say, I've got this task, would you be okay to work on it? Or there's this bit of work coming up, I'll have a chat with Ian to see
Yep.
if it's something that he could deliver.
Yeah, but
I
that's
wouldn't,
different from I have this task, I'll have Ian do it, or even to my business analyst um, will do that.
yeah, I don't
Whew.
think,
People don't belong to
People
other
don't belong to
people.
other people, but I think
no, no,
is that
yeah,
maybe an environment and where you're working as well? Because I know certainly with where I am, I get given tasks. That's how I work as a contractor. But when I get given a task, it's would you be okay to work on this? Do you have capacity to work on this? Or when I'm delivering something, I'll talk about the we. I don't really say I as such, or I did this, and I'll give credit to the other people that have done things, but we have delivered something. And I don't know if that's just where the situation I'm in, but I get the language thing. Like I say all the time, that's not a problem or no problem. That's a negative thing to say, apparently. You shouldn't say no problem. So I understand that language barrier and differences in terminology and things. I totally appreciate where you're coming from. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it in my environment and what I've experienced, but I understand.
Well, I believe that just by taking that approach that you guys have, that's maybe just as valuable as the mental health squads, or helping hands, because it just bridges gaps.
yeah.
It's
I mean, I'll
that's
be
the
honest, there
important
has
thing to
been,
do, being kind.
yeah, I think I don't think it's a cultural thing. I think that might be company to company that happens. I could probably point to a couple of companies where I've worked where that maybe has been
Okay.
the environment that has happened. But I've probably learned from that and picked up lessons and totally 180'd on how they work to because you don't get as many people engaged if you're just dishing out tasks. Here, pal, go and do that. See
Kindness
you in
costs
5
nothing, but you need
days.
to kill them with kindness and
You,
ask. But we're not, it's not a dictatorship. Yeah, you're there to work, but it's not a dictatorship. You shouldn't be dictated to. This is the goal. This is how we have to get there. Let's work to get there. That's kind of it.
yeah, because let's be honest, everybody at that company or at a company is there to make money. The more money that the company make, the more money that can flow through to them. So it's in everyone's interest to be kind and work together and not be General Aladdin the dictator. I did just quote Ali G. Yes, I
Oh
did.
my word! No!
Did you expect that one to
Oh
come
my
out?
word! I'm actually crying. I'm actually
And
crying
I
at that
was saying it
comment.
was such a
Wow.
was
I know
even
that
with
was
a
such a
straight
rant
face
to
that
end up
one
on an
came in.
Ali G reference. What?
Have you ever seen that film yet, Anna?
I have
The
not.
Dictator.
I have not. I should, huh?
Yes, I will send you a link to that one later.
Well, thank you.
We'll
Oh,
put it in
by
the
the
show
way,
notes. No.
about films. Have you guys seen Chernobyl,
Yes, I just
the
watched
series,
episode
the
four
mini
Oh,
last
series
night.
from HBO?
Uh,
Oh my God.
it's grim.
I am about to pick it up.
It's
Really.
You know, it's
See, now I want you to talk about it,
yeah.
but I don't want you to talk
Overall,
about it.
I,
I
I
don't want
think
any
if you look at the
spoiler
stats for Chernobyl,
alerts.
they still are saying that only like is it something like 40 people died directly from Chernobyl.
Really?
yes, but then because obviously all of the wind blew west, and guess who the closest Western
Oh
country is from
yeah,
Ukraine? um, there's the impact is devastating even
I
to even
remember
today.
as a kid when it happened. And I remember we were not, there was a whole thing about not eating various types of meat and things here because of the rain that would have fed the grass that the cows were eating and the sheep were eating and things like that. I have some minuscule recollection of that. I say minuscule, I remember it quite vividly to be fair, but that would suggest my age more than I want to.
Yeah, I don't remember that. The only part that I remember is we used to have at school, they used to bring people over from Chernobyl and surrounding areas to come to the school for a
It's
couple of
horrific.
weeks.
Such a
And
horrific thing that
yeah,
happened. It's
but
crazy.
yeah, just, so
Yes.
I'm going to watch that one and I will send you a WhatsApp later on my thoughts off that.
Good.
But I've seen everyone's been talking about it, so it's definitely
It's
on the
mind
list.
blowing. It's mind blowing, but yeah, for us being a neighboring country, the effects are only really shown
Oh,
now.
really?
Like you could see families of 9, 10 kids all dying of cancer within a few years in their 50s.
They'd have been like,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, I mean it's
so
really a
you
whole.
can't really say, oh, it's because of that,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
As it's
all
odd
right.
in the way that it's hard
It's
to,
a
for me, it's hard to say that it's not a cause and reaction to it. Like everything that we spoke about today, it's got a cause and reaction, right? So all these people that are dying and all the things that you're now seeing and things from, it's hard to say that it's not directly related, other than it's just a really strange coincidence. But wow, like it's 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 just mind blowing.
I mean, the fact that it's almost like a whole generation of people who are affected by it in some way or another, you can't discount that in the slightest.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Not in our lifetimes. That won't go
okay,
away.
so I will be watching that over the next couple of days. So, one thing you were very very coy about, and you barely touched on it earlier on, was the amazing thing that you done last year with your Go Learn Earn. Now,
Learn to
you
earn.
yes, I know I get it wrong every single time, Anna. I know I get it wrong all the time, and Ian will cut that out of the podcast. Um, but
So,
you don't take the credit for that you should do, and I know you didn't do it to get credit, but I obviously directly because somebody who was on your course was somebody who I was mentoring at the time as well. Um, had nothing but amazing things to say about you as a person and the course as well. I just don't think you've had the recognition that you deserve for that.
Cause and reaction yet again.
Yes.
well,
Now
I'm
don't and now
I'm not
stop being
as
humble.
I'm not as visible as other people, are. They're much better than me and making themselves visible. So maybe it's because of that. The program was an absolute success. It was, taking 8 ladies from, some of them from absolutely nothing, never worked in an office, never had any contact with technology to the point of not knowing Excel or Microsoft Word, and then doing an exhausting 8 weeks course twice a week, every night at 8 p.m. online, and these people were able to learn dynamics, and then they were able to present dynamics, and finally they were able to pass the exam. Like one of the ladies I can still see now, She used to be a translator, and I'm just so proud of her. I think she's got like 3 or 4 exams now in dynamics. So how cool is that? These people just needed a little bit of help, and not just with learning the course, but also with providing a little bit of encouragement and getting
Yeah,
over some of their
confidence.
own fears. That's exactly right. So I've done that
So you
course
had,
last year. Um,
did all 8 people get a certificate?
all of them, all of them,
That, I mean, that in
108
itself
people.
is amazing.
Yeah, they are amazing people, and um, because I've I've been thinking a lot about the efficiency of a free course versus a paid course, and my course was free. Many opinions say that when something's for free, people take it for granted and they don't really appreciate it. They don't really do the work. Um, in my case, I was very fortunate to have these ladies on board. They absolutely did all of the work. It was not always easy, just setting aside 2 hours, every week. Um, and then with some of them, we did some courses on the weekend as well, just to catch up on stuff that were not completely understood during the course with everyone else. And and they have children at home, their moms. It was an incredible effort. Any
Yeah, I
company
think
would
Like,
be
it's
lucky to
hard,
have
isn't it, when you
them.
do a free course? I agree. Having been on free courses that were my choice to go to, I pay attention to them because I've chose to do it. If it's a paid course, for me, that generally your work's paid for you to be there, you probably can't be bothered being there. You probably don't feel that you need to be there, but you're there for the free lunch that your work are providing. So I think there's definitely two schools of thought on that, but I do agree there's some people who go on a free course as well, just because they can say they've been in the course and probably don't give it the dedication they should. But you were fortunate. The girls that you had on and the people that you had on your course were diligent enough. They sat down and they done it. But I think, as Mark says, you need to take credit for that as well, Anna, because you done that. You've empowered these people to go on and do bigger and better things generally. They wouldn't be where they are if they wouldn't have taken that leap. They wouldn't have had the confidence to do that. They might have had an anxiety about coming on the course first off, but you were the person that said to them, "You can do this, and I'll show you how." And then they go, "Actually, I can do this. Awesome," and move onwards and take the steps themselves. You just gave them that catalyst.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
so are there plans for any more?
Well, I've recently joined TDG. Everyone knows TDG. They're awesome. They do loads of things. I don't know when. Uh, I think they have 40-hour days, I think. I can't explain it otherwise. Um, but these guys, they've set up obviously a platform of knowledge transfers, hackathon sessions, conferencing, all sorts of knowledge transfer. So my idea is, as part of TDG, to embed these as part of TDG, and get some help from some of the other members as well. And I'm there as a community lead and as a mentor. So I'm going to try and take it to the next level and do a course on 365 still, so still Dynamics 365 CE, for people to gain more knowledge around that, but then also on um, a little bit of help on how to speak at events. So Ian, you mentioned about how anxious you are when you need to prepare for an event and speak at an event and present something. Well, this course would help me with my own anxiety because I normally present very, very technical sessions. I'm always very afraid no one's going to attend. Um, I'm always, scared that I'm not actually saying anything relevant for those people. And I think I just need more people who make very, very technical sessions on Azure with Dynamics 365 with the Power Platform. So I'm going to try and inspire more people to do it.
And that they have the technical platform where you can record things and put it on in a library so that it's accessible to everyone, really.
Yes.
So anyone who
That's cool.
wants that can then pick it up. That is a great thing. And have you got any more speaking engagements coming up?
Well, I'm hoping to go to Zurich for the 365 Saturday. And then I'm gonna go Manchester. So these are the two: Zurich 15th of June, and then Manchester on the 28th, 29th, I think.
Okay. Now I think last time I spoke with you, I can't even remember where it was now.
It was a
You
touring
were
event.
No, I'm sure there was somewhere else that we've had a chat,
Hmm?
and you were looking to start bringing people from your work on and doing half, like splitting the presentation half and half.
Oh yes, so that's happened actually. I
Okay.
was able to do it was like my trial run for the for the bigger program where I want to bring more people into to speak about technical sessions.
Yeah.
So there is a person from my work, and he was very, very interested about presenting something, but he was very scared about doing it. Of course, very, very smart, very, very efficient. So, what we've done was a presentation on a bot, and that goes with Azure and Dynamics 365 CE. And the bot was a very, very fun um, functionality thing that we've done. So, um, what the bot did was plan a party. So
Okay.
the whole room was engaged to actually chip in to plan that party, and then the bot uh, planned the party for us. And yeah, so his name is Dias Manjali, and
Okay.
he's actually developed the bot bit, and then he presented the bot, and he was very, very happy. So we're gonna do some more. I thought that was a major success,
Yeah.
us
So
presenting together.
is the plan then to do another presentation together and then let him go out and do one on his own? Is that the sort of what you want to try and do?
I wanted to encourage him to do one on his own now, but I don't think he felt completely comfortable with doing that. I wanted to encourage him to take the same party planning board but present it in a different audience, a different forum. He was not sure about that yet. So I think we are going to do another presentation together, and then he's gonna do one on his own.
See, that is quite cool. I do like that. Just getting somebody who's not as confident about something, build the confidence, and then you're free like a butterfly. Away you go and talk as many times as you want.
Yes, yes, he's such a wonderful person, and one of those people who don't cause anxiety for anyone. He's just very kind. Yes.
So, are you going to do that with other people within your business or in the community in general? Try and get them. Is that what the sort of the tie-in with TDG is going to be about, getting people confident for speaking at events?
I don't believe that within the business, but I'm hoping that within the community, yes.
That's cool.
See, that's quite good. There's so many, and it's mainly developers or technical people. There's so many people who are absolutely amazing at what they do, but they're either lacking in self confidence. They don't think people will want to hear about them. Whereas there's some of the best minds in the business. They just don't have the confidence. And it's doing things like that get people up there to a wider audience and push people on.
That
So
definitely
that
is
is an
100%.
awesome thing you're doing.
Well, I believe there is a portal. I think it's called Speaker Mentors or something like that. And a lot of people have
Okay.
signed on to that. And you'll see people speaking about Microsoft technologies still, like SQL, Azure, all sorts of other frameworks as well, big data, stuff like that. But there's nothing really on Dynamics or on the Power Platform. And I believe that's because people have been so good in growing their own career, personality, and knowledge base, that this community just flourished. But at the same time, I think there are many voices, talented voices, that are not heard at the moment. I'm merely trying to let them know that they're brilliant. That's all.
Oh, that's definitely a good thing. There's plenty of people out there who have got the skill sets. They just need that little push or that little lift to get them there. And then you're going to be able to go to any event, and there's going to be so many cool people there.
Yes.
So, is there? I know you say you're not very active on social media, but do you want to share where you are so that people can follow you, see what you're doing, where you're speaking, or what you're up to at TDG?
So you can find me on Twitter at Ana Demeny, and you can find me on LinkedIn with my name as well. I will reply to all of the questions that you've got. I will be very, very open to help anyone who would like to actually, I don't know, get into the community by speaking, by helping others with their knowledge on dynamics. Um, so yeah, just reach out.
Thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe to the podcast with your favourite app and check out crm.audio for information on all the other shows on the network.